Hey everybody, welcome back to the 129th episode of Taps to Patience. You guys get a little bit different section of the intro song today because I pressed the buttons in the wrong order. My name is AJ Huff with Subtract Manufacturing and Audacity Micro, here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity. Hi Harrison.
How we doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain.
It's starting to get cold enough that I have tea instead of water or lemonade or whatever for this podcast.
Oh wow. Yeah, we had a cold spell come in this weekend and it's been feeling really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's been, I mean, maybe still highs in 78, 79, 80 degrees, but we've had lows down in, I don't know, probably the 50s or even high 40s.
I think this morning it was the low 60s.
Yeah. It feels like fall. I don't think it's technically fall, but it feels like fall.
It's nice that it's coming a little earlier.
Yeah, after the long, hot summer.
Mm-hmm. So what's new in your world?
This week was kind of a miscellanea week. I finished up my current class session, and that I'm now done with teaching until right at the end of this month. I think the 29th is my first class back. I finished up those big parts that were trying to murder me and kind of some odds and ends. Other than that, that's it. I've got a bunch of work lined up for the near future, and next week is going to be very busy. But it was basically finishing up odds and ends and making up some family time.
Good deal. Yeah. I've been...
How are things?
Been busy.
How are things going over there?
Busy. I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose, and I have a lot on the medical parts kind of going on, and we're kind of entering into our busy time at the shop where everyone is starting to want parts again, which is kind of what happens at the end of every year.
Well, should I start with my week since it'll be a little bit more minimal, and then with the little bit of details I have?
Let's hit it.
So the big parts, I ended up needing to flip and face those, I think about 4 times. So 2 times on each side. I did end up doing them on the Tormach instead of the VF2s at school. Just the work holding ended up being a lot easier with the Saunders plates. I only have 2 mod vices now, and I kind of wish I had 3, but they got the job done. I squished my finger. I thought I broke it, but it was okay. I scraped the heck out of my thumb. And that was actually worse, especially because after that I did some super glue parts, and so I was playing with like acetone and alcohol the whole time, and so that was uncomfortable.
Did you see John's video on the broken finger and thought I can do better?
This was like right after that, and so my first thought was like, "Oh no, I broke my finger." It still is a little. You can't see any difference now. It's that finger right there.
YouTube friendly.
You can't see any difference now. It feels a little bit inflated, and I mean it was large and purple for multiple days. But I don't think it's broken. I don't think it would have de-purpled in 3 days had it been broken. And I still have full movement. It's just, I don't know, everything I poke hurts. So fortunately my finger is okay. The school did say that they're going to send me to Mastercam training at some point here in the near future, which will be cool. They want me to teach Mastercam. Obviously, I'm good at Fusion, but don't have much experience outside of that. So at some point here, I'll get to learn that because Rolls-Royce wants me to teach a class for them. So that'll be fun.
Oh, that is like the car company?
Same company, different division. So this division makes jet engines.
Oh, even cooler.
So I'm already signed up to teach their like kind of intro to machining class, the same class that I do, a couple times a month. Basically, here's a machine, here's how you load parts, here's how you run programs, touching off tools, calibrating probes, kind of the basic machining stuff. But they're like, hey, can you do programming too? And it's like, well, if you want Fusion, they didn't want Fusion. So the school's taking care of that. The school also wants me to teach PLCs, which we actually have a pretty good setup for PLCs in this building. We have like these big rolling boards with a bunch of PLCs and components that you can kind of breadboard together, plus a robotic arm next to each of them on kind of their own separate cart. So you can integrate those or use them standalone. Um, I have a little bit of professional experience in PLCs, not a lot, and but an engineering degree. So they're gonna send me to training for that, so I can start doing that instruction too at some point here. And then other than that, I have a couple parts that like I was just waiting for materials for or time. I have some small Maycore parts,
Mm-hmm.
which should be relatively simple. The only problem with them is they're fairly high precision. These are the parts, and I found out where I made my mistake. These were the parts where I looked at the drawing the first time and went, oh, those are fine. And then I looked at the drawing the second time and was like, oh no, I can't measure these. The first time I saw the drawing, it said 0.001. And I
Mm-hmm.
went, oh, a thou. Nope, that was a micron. That was millimeters. And so I had to tell the customer, hey, I cannot inspect these. And they went, and then I asked them if I could do it to a thou. And they're like, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's a spacer. I don't know why they specified to the micron, but they did. And they're getting them to the thou.
Fair enough.
Customers being customers. The and then we have FabTech coming up. So meetup FabTech, 2 p.m. on Tuesday, I think is what we settled on. Send me a message if you're coming. There's probably not going to be a whole lot of us, but if you happen to be at FabTech, stop by. We'll be at the Articard booth.
That'd be fun.
And the last thing I've been doing is I've been 3D printing some stuff for Arta. They're doing some sort of like lean assembly thing, demonstration, I guess, at their booth.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying that they, had more things to print than they had time before the show. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be there and I have a printer. So I've been doing some mass printing for them.
Speaking of demo parts, did we ever find your demo part at IMTS at the Fusion booth?
I don't remember. Maybe?
I'm trying to remember. Was it like a coffee stir or something? It was like a gear?
Yeah, it was a espresso distribution tool for when you're making espresso. I kind of wish I had that part back.
Yeah, it looked like a cool part. I don't remember seeing it because I wanted to see it. Was that titanium?
Yep, it was all titanium.
It was all titanium? Yeah, that would have been cool.
And anodized, which was my first time doing that, I think, on titanium. I was thinking about asking Next Gen if I can publish that video that they hired me to make on my channel now, if it's been long enough. It's available for members only.
Oh, is the video of you making that part?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, because cool. Next Gen wanted the video and the part.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And it's marked as a secret project on my YouTube channel.
Ah. That'd be a cool one.
People would be very confused if I just published that video now. Because I'm pretty sure I only had the Haas at that point.
You might. I don't know.
My shop would have looked very different.
It'd still be cool. Because, I mean, Saunders posted that video of the part he sent to space like 3 years after the fact. Because it was finally launching.
And at some point here, in a week or two, I'm getting a visit from the Toolpath guys.
Oh, nice. What are they coming by for?
And what?
What are they coming by for?
To record like a customer success story kind of video. I do use Toolpath a lot. I've been using it more and more in my workflow. I think they just kind of wanted to, record a video for their marketing purposes. And while they're here, I'm going to record a video for my YouTube channel. I was thinking about like, one idea that we can't do because of NDAs was like I would do this if we had enough work for Subtract, but like go to Xometry and take 10 different Xometry jobs and make them all in a day.
Oh,
it's like, here guys, make me money. But there's some ethical and legal problems with that, so we're not going to do that. Yeah, but I was thinking like funny. I can design 10 different parts and have them program them with Toolpath and make them on my machine or something. Mm-hmm. We'll see how many we can get through. or something like that.
That's funny.
But I'm trying to come up with something cool that we can make.
Mm-hmm.
My best idea right now is an auto door for the Tormach
On the window or the main door?
for the window.
Mm.
Because Tormach has an auto door that's actually pretty legit, but it would involve major disassembly for me to get one onto the machine. Because it's like replaces that whole side panel, and I've Psica flexed everything in place. Um, but I figured I could just like take out the acrylic window and put it in my laser and laser cut out a square and then some mounting holes for something, and then make an auto door that's, I don't know, 2 feet square or something like that.
Yeah.
And then a robot could reach in there.
I mean, can it slide on rails? Like, can you open that door as is?
I could. I have a little bit of a problem where the way those windows open is they just slide straight up like most machine windows. And my ceiling is not particularly tall.
Mm-hmm.
So I only get like the bottom 2 feet of the door open, or maybe even 18 inches. I actually wish I had not gotten the side windows. They were technically a free option at the time of purchasing my machine, but
Mm-hmm.
they have just like steel panels that bolt in and out from the side.
Like the
And that would make
1100s?
things like working on the ATC much easier because you can just pull
Oh,
off the door like this instead of my windows that only go halfway up.
gotcha. Makes sense. Well, that'll be
But that's
fun.
pretty much it for me. So, what's going on in Harrison Land?
Lots. So,
You've mentioned. Let's start at the
uh,
beginning.
so was Weston done with the CMM last time we talked? Like his classes?
Last I heard, he had like just finished up classes, and you guys had programmed like one part, or were working on programming the first part.
Okay. Okay. So he has since then programmed the part fully.
Cool.
And then I designed, they came with like a little kit of like work holding for CMMs.
Mm-hmm.
And I designed a flexure that could be 3D printed and take up a fraction of the space that we can just bolt to the table. And so it's real easy to pop the part in and out of that now. And so we have a flexure for one side. I'm gonna have to make another one for the other side, so we can do both sides. And we're gonna be mimicking the medical company is holding their parts. So they're doing
That
one
makes
side
sense.
and then flipping it and do the other. So we're gonna try to get all the same measurements and hold the part in exactly the same method or same orientation as they are, so that we're measuring in very similar fashions. And so that was a fun little side project. Didn't take but 5 minutes to model up and send to the printer, and then we had it. And I had to make one revision to it because my flexure, um, it wore out after like 20 parts, and so I had to make the flexure have a longer section that could bend out of the way, so
Mm-hmm.
it has a little less pressure, but it's not going to wear out as fast. So we'll see how long that one holds up. And then when Weston wrote the program first, he had everything slow. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 50 inches a minute or something like that. And the machine goes up to 300 inches a minute. And
It's pretty
so,
fast.
which is pretty fast for a CMM. And so he bumped it from 150 from 50 up to 150, and it was a little nerve-wracking, but I don't think he's put it all the way up to full speed yet, because 150 is still pretty fast. It's not measuring at 150, but it's moving
Rapid.
between positions at 150, which on a part of that size is pretty zippy. So that's pretty fun. We've had several meetings with the medical people, and they've been good, but I think we might give their quality manager a heart attack. Because, so to put things, give a little bit of background. We are not certified in all of the ways that they're used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
We just got the CMM. We are not ISO 9000 yet. We do not have a QA manual. We're working on that. We do not, this is also a new process that we are changing, and they want to see a fledged out process. So, like when they
Yeah.
ask us, how are we inspecting this? We're constantly changing everything because we're constantly improving. And so, like, we don't have a defined process for how we're checking these. It's, well, we checked it these in this method, and then we found a weakness, and so we changed it, and then we found a weakness, and then we changed it, we found a weakness, and we're kind of building up our system. And so, all that to be said, the first 10 parts we sent, we had problems. And I think I've talked about them on the podcast. We sent 29 more parts, and they did a full statistical study on those parts, and they had some problems, some potential problems. And so all 29 parts passed, but when you do the statistical analysis, it puts a bell curve on all of the
Mm-hmm.
data. And on one of the parts, or on one of the measurements,
The
it showed the
features.
bell it showed the bell curve, and it showed the bell curve was shifted outside of the acceptable range. Even though all of the parts that they measured were inside the bell curve, it showed the bell curve spilling outside. And then we had to explain to him that even though we shipped him 29 parts, we'd actually machined 34 parts, and we didn't send him the parts that fell outside the bell curve because we had gotten a special go no go gauge for that. And so he was really happy to hear that, but he asked us to move up our minimum go gauge by 1/10, get another go gauge 1/10
Okay.
up to get us closer inside, so our bell curve is shifted over a little bit. So that's one fix we're going to have to do. The second problem that he had, so the last two were not actual problems, and we looked over the data with them, and we pointed out some errors on their part. So the first one was, we're drilling a hole and its absolute position. So if you imagine your two bars of acceptable ratio, you have 0 on one side, and then on the other side you have their maximum deviation off of 0. So our bell curve was like hugging the 0 line, and he wanted that to be like centered between the two bar graphs to show that our bell curve is in the middle. And so I asked him, I said, so do you want me to drill that hole purposely off center to like move the graph over? And he like looked at the graph and looked at what he was measuring. He was like, oh no, you don't want to do that. You want to be all the way over. I was like, because I can drill it out of place if that's what you want. And so we kind of had a little bit of a laugh about that one. And then the last problem area that we had, he had mixed up the data from the first 10 we had done to the second 29.
Mm.
And the first 29 that we did, they had modeled the part on the upper bound. And so I was trying to machine my bell curve around the upper bound without going out of bounds. But they wanted me to shift that whole area down. And he had a duplication of the data, same values, same graphs. It was a 10 piece study and a 10-piece study. The second one was supposed to be a 29-piece study. So like it was very obvious that it was identical copies. And so when we got to that section, he went and he pulled up the other data, and the bell curve shrunk dramatically and shot up right in the middle of the two barriers and in front of their deal. And he's like, oh, you guys fixed that. It's like, yeah. So that's when I got the Frasia tool and for milling away that slot. So it
Nice.
both it shrunk my bell curve up, and it actually took 3 minutes off my machining time. So, and not only that, the old tool I was using from Haas, it lasted 6 parts, and the Frasia tool, I still haven't changed it out, and it's machined 31 parts. So,
Wow.
and it's just their E-cut line, and so I should be able to get a lot more with their if I went to their specific line. all that to say that the their quality guy, while everything is 100% in spec, is extremely nervous and holding everything we and looking over everything we do with a fine tooth comb, because this is way outside of his comfort zone of what he expects companies to have. And so he's signing off on our work. And if anything falls back, it's probably going to fall back on him. So he's doing everything he can to hold our feet to the fire to make sure we don't make any mistakes and being overly cautious, which I appreciate because he wants us to succeed.
So he's basically concerned because you're a small company, right? Like that's really what this is coming down to.
A small company that does not have AS9100 is just getting a CMM who does not have to find practices for for measuring. Like we're developing all of that stuff while we're making production parts. And he's
Maybe
used to have
young companies, the term I should have used,
yeah, yeah, young company.
because
Um,
it's you just haven't had time to flesh all this out yet.
exactly. And I like to give the analogy because he reminds me of one of my professors in university. One of my professors in university, we were doing a group project, and it has always been standard practice that he picks the partners for the group project. And I suggested to him that we pick our own partners. He's like, no. And I gave an argument that eventually convinced him that he would let us pick our own partners. The next day he came in and he had bags under his eyes, like big black bags. He had stayed up all night worrying about us picking our own partners. This is in university, our senior year, and it was going against what he normally does, so he could not handle it. And that's how this quality guy is, because he did all that study stuff. Like he wrote the document, or he took all the data and created that statistical study at 2 a.m. in the morning because he couldn't sleep. So like I know we're just stressing him out a lot.
Yeah,
Super nice guy, but he is way outside his comfort zone.
interesting.
Because he's like, I've been doing this for 20 something years and I've never done it this way. so so we're definitely pushing him outside his comfort zone.
Say pushing some boundaries.
Yeah. But they're in a position where there's a very expensive PO that everyone in the company is very nervous about getting done, and these parts are the final piece. So
Hmm.
while I'm in meetings with him, their purchasing agent is also in those same meetings, and they're going, how do we go faster? How do we go faster? How do we go faster? How do we cut through the red tape? And so like they're kind of fighting each other a little bit where, you know, one's trying to like push the other through to try to get everything approved so they can get their parts. So,
Sounds like normal big company stuff.
yeah. So, and they placed another order for more parts. So, after all of our meetings. So, we've got 3 open POs with them now. So,
Nice. So, how many parts total is that?
the first PO was for 200, the second was for 800. The next one was only for like 70 or 80. But it was for stock, I think is what it was for. So I think it's 200 for their current, like that's how many they need to get done by a specific date. They need 800 for the rest of the order, but it's not as pressing as their first delivery. And then they ordered a small amount for inventory that'll get them through the rest of this year. So
Have you ever said what these are for, if you're allowed to?
I can talk a little bit about it in the sense of it goes on a tool that is used to drill into bone.
Okay.
So, and the part that we are working on is the part that holds the bearings, that holds the collet for the drill. So it's the housing, it's the
Interesting.
bearing housing. It's like the
Yeah.
spindle of the drill, basically, which is why the
Which
bore is so tight.
explains which explains the tight tolerances.
Yeah. So that's my understanding of what this part is.
We had some subtract parts come through, that had like a tight tolerance on the inside. They were like a ring basically, but they had tight tolerances on the inside, and then they had a tight tolerance knurl on the outside, which I found very interesting. And I think what's happening is it's a hard. It was like hard 17.4, and I think what's happening is it's a bearing race that's like getting, or bearing race is the wrong term, but it's like a bearing seat that is getting pressed into like aluminum or something. And so the
Gotcha.
knurl is like getting pressed into a softer material, maybe plastic, I don't know. And then the bearing goes into the hardened race.
Or it's
But
getting injection molded over.
that could be. But it was a knurl with a plus or minus 1 thou tolerance. And it's like, that's odd, but okay. The shop that made it, I don't know the shop's name. The guy's name is Kyle. I could probably look up what shop he's in. He's probably actually done the majority of our subtract work, but he did a good job with those, and apparently didn't have a problem with a tight tolerance knurl. I was afraid that would be difficult, but apparently not. Oh, it says it right there. Kirsch Machine.
Gotcha.
Kirsch. I think he's up kind of in the Oregon area, and he's been doing a great job with subtract.
Yep. So we had that going on. I've had 2 or 3 meetings this week with the guitar people as they're trying to figure out their next stage of production and parts that they want, while making some slight engineering tweaks here and there. He wanted me to make one part for a fitment test on some of the guitars. And I asked him, I was like, can I 3D print that? He was like, oh, yeah, that'd be okay. And I was like, okay. I was like, because I was like, if you wait like 5 minutes, I can get you a 3D print with those changes. So middle of the meeting, I ran over to my computer, made those changes, and printed it out
Nice.
because I was like, I'm way too busy to try to like fit that in with my current workload and get you anything in the remote like next couple of weeks. If I can 3D print something and you can do a test fitment with that, that'd be perfect.
Send him to subtract.
so so we did that, and for what it was, he didn't need an actual part. He just needed something
Yeah.
to check the spacing between bolts. So
A
3D
part
print
shaped
was
object,
perfect.
as Dylan would say.
Huh?
A part shaped object, as Dylan would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. And so that went well. But they're getting excited, and they're, I think, gonna probably place an order here shortly. And then there was one other thing I was trying to think. Oh, we went and had a meeting with our tax guy to see how we're doing this year, because we're looking at buying a dual spindle Y-axis lathe.
Ooh.
So, um, so we're in the process of getting 400 amps to the shop, and then upgrading from 200 to 400, and then getting a dual spindle Y-axis lathe
Nice.
potentially before the end of the year. Um, we're kind of between a rock and a hard place because there's 3 different customers that could all place large orders very quickly, and we're at about 80% capacity, 70 to 80% justified capacity for a dual spindle Y-axis lathe, but they're 2 months out from install. So it's like, okay, if anything happens in the next 2 months, we are screwed. So like we're trying to see if we need to pull the trigger on that. And then we're kind of in a very similar situation potentially with the UMC and the Doosan. There's 2 high volume jobs that if we get them in the next month, we could be needing to buy a robot or a gimbal automation system for the Doosan. So I got like a lot of money that I might need to spend in a very short order, and we've just got out of about a month and a half of like low net 30 invoices coming in. So like my cash reserves are really low from what they should
Mm.
be, and we're about to get swamped in a good bad way.
Yeah. The I can feed my children, but I'm really busy kind of way.
No, I can't feed my children because I'm going to be floating everything up front.
Uh, also, you have
Uh,
no children, as far as I know.
I'm gonna have to live on the shop floor and eat beans and rice for the next month or two until money starts coming back in. Which me and Weston have both talked. We need to probably start charging people like a deposit on some of these larger
Mm.
POs of some kind, like a 10% or 20%, whatever, whatever's typical in the industry. Because these larger orders, while fantastic, it's a lot up front that we got to spend, and it really puts a cash burden on us.
No, yeah, definitely. And unless you can do it like in the 30 days where, you order the material, deliver the parts in 30 days. Well, no. Okay, this is when you need net 60 with your customers. This is why companies do things like net 60 with your
Well,
material suppliers.
yeah. Which,
So
by the
you can do
way,
your parts in 30 days and then pay your material suppliers later.
speaking of which, the medical company is net 60. That's the only way
Yeah,
they do things. So
of course.
not only it does pay really well, it just pays really well 2 months later.
Eventually.
So it's gonna suck because they're gonna kind of skew what I consider a healthy amount in my net 30 is gonna be skewed with net 60 money. And so it's like
Yeah.
I'm used to seeing in my net 30 is gonna need to be more than what I'm used to seeing because it's net 60. So that's gonna suck. But such is job shop life.
Do you have anything else interesting before I move on to Patreons here?
This was my first week of my employee working full time, and it was a holiday on Monday, and he would took vacation the last 2 days of the week, so his first full time week was 2 days, which is what he normally works part time.
Okay, I didn't know you were pulling him in full time.
Mm-hmm.
This
He is
is programmer employee.
yes, yes, and the
You
intern
only
is
had
gone.
one.
The intern is
Okay, so
gone.
you only had one employee, and the other one was an intern.
Correct. So intern is
So
gone. Employee has gone from part time to full time, and so
does that
this
work
week
out to be the same number of hours?
between the two, yeah, more or less.
Okay.
So we're gonna need to watch him though because he was working 2 days, but he's working 2 days at like 10 hours, like our hours, and so he's gonna
Mm-hmm.
need to work only 8 hour days or get off
Otherwise,
early,
overtime.
otherwise overtime. So we told him that we are not wanting to do overtime unless we need him to work overtime. So, get 40 hours and then, if you've got, get out of here. so, so that we don't have to pay you overtime. Unless we get super busy, at which time we will approve overtime and we'll work you to the bone.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but
speaking of working people to the bone, we have Patreons. Those Patreons support us and pay for software and trips to IMTS and lots of money to Jacob. Harrison's been doing some accounting for us because I'm notoriously bad at that. And I think we've decided that Jacob has won the podcast. And actually, he's well worth it. Don't let me
don't
imply
throw
that he is
Jacob under the
not.
bus.
Yeah. I said that and was like, wow, that was mean. I didn't mean to say that out loud
Jacob, we love
or in
you.
my head. Yeah, no, actually, this podcast, like when I was doing all of that teaching, this podcast solely existed because of Jacob organizing all the details and making sure it still happens. So Jacob's worth every penny. Sorry for beating you with a dead horse, Jacob. Anyway, new Patreon, Samus W, Stephen M, our new Patreons. So thank you guys for joining us as new Patreons. All Patreons get access to the weekly Q&A, including even just at the free tier. So if you don't want to pay us any money, that's fine. Jacob gets it all anyway. But you can still come and ask us questions. If you join at a paid tier, you get early access to the episodes, which Jacob does. Gosh, the last couple weeks he's done, I think, on the day we've recorded. So that's cool. but normally it'll be like a day or two afterwards. So early access. And was there another perk for being a paid member? I don't know. If
We
you're
were gonna
$10,
have them do the awkward outro, but I don't think anyone's ever done an awkward outro for us.
yeah. If you guys want to, if you're at the awkward outro tier, message Jacob, and Jacob will get you on the awkward outro. Anyway, our paid Patreons include, but are not limited to, A Dead Horse, Daniel R., James at Moultrie Made, Ryan at Strato Manufacturing, Austin W., Kyle at Kursk Machine, Devin at Sinister Machine Works, James and Ben at Prickly Pear Prototypes, which, Ben, we still need to get you on the podcast, Cam S., Shep at Alderson Prototyping, Jacob at Zana Precision, Jason S., Joshua H., Christian Z., Freaky Climber, Prescott at 1Z2Z Systems, Trey V., Guy L., Alexander B., Scott Design the Everything, Jamie J. Spec Engineering, Chris Zyke, EJ Nocturnal Welding, Chris at Thought Bob Design, and as ever, Jake Brownson.
At what point does that list get long enough that we just have it as like a credit scroll or a robot voice?
I don't know. This is what the people are paying for. Maybe at some point we pre-record it, but
there you go. That's what it is. You got to do the animation thing where you save money by recording it once and then you just play it.
Yeah. Do you? I remember us having this conversation. I don't remember what your answer was. I know you called me out for calling you out on an Instagram story. Do you listen to the Lone Machinist podcast?
No, I need to. So I've been trying to listen to some of those episodes because I haven't actually got to the part. What did they talk about us on their podcast?
They do on a regular basis.
Oh, they do on a regular basis. Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, I've been trying to listen to some of their episodes to try to play catch up and see what's going on in their world. I honestly have been so busy that like I'm behind on everyone's podcast, not just theirs. I haven't been listening to The Bomb, to With Intolerance, to The Lone Machinists, to whatever Pearson's podcast is with Henry Holsters. Like, there's a lot of podcasts, and I have been running around the shop like a madman for the last couple weeks, and I just haven't been able to like listen to anything. So
I have been listening to an audiobook series that's like fine. I like it enough that I'm going to finish the series, but I don't like it enough where I get like focused on it and, we'll listen to 8 hours a day or whatever. And because of that, I've been listening to a lot more podcasts. So
yeah,
I've been listening to a lot more Jamie since my audiobook is bad.
What did they say specifically? Because you mentioned something. Did they just shout us out and then you just said Harrison doesn't listen? But thanks.
Well, Jamie accused me of being a weirdo for watching the video of their podcast. Oh, I remember why I brought this up now. He accused me for being a weirdo of watching the video of their podcast, but not doing it on YouTube.
Oh,
it just pops into my normal podcast player, and so I watch it on there. So he keeps thinking I'm watching it on Zencaster. I don't watch it on Zencaster, Jamie.
That's funny.
Oh, they've pre-canned their intro, and they press they'll start the podcast and they'll press the intro button, and they'll just like sit around twiddling their thumbs for I don't know, whatever it is, feels like 45 minutes of their intro, and then they'll start talking.
I feel like,
and it's like, this is efficient, but at the same time, I feel like it takes the fun out of it.
I feel like we're one of the very few podcasts that actually do intros and outros raw every single time. It's like most of them that I listen to, they have like a very defined intro that leads into the conversation, and then like a very smooth outro where it's all pre-recorded, and it's like we're just like, all right, it's another week, let's just go for it. We're doing it live.
Sometimes I press the buttons in the wrong order, so the music starts before the recording.
We're doing it live.
It's the jank that people like. That's why they like our podcast.
Hey,
right?
It's raw. That's all I'll say is it's raw. Do we got questions this week?
Yeah, I was thinking if there was a way that I could work in Jamie's palette system, because we have a deal where if I talk about his palette system, he talks about Subtract. So Jamie has a cool palette system.
I saw him doing some fourth axis work with his palette system on Instagram the other
Yeah.
day.
He, and the cool thing about that is he had it like 15-degree intervals, where like on my Aroa, I can only do 90-degree intervals. So there's some cool benefits there.
I didn't see
Oh,
that one. I saw the one where he actually had it on a fourth axis, where he could.
Yes, he also has one on his fourth axis. I assume with a rotary union right now. But he also did the indexing thing like I've been doing on my Aroa.
Yeah, which his is just a BT, or is it a cat or a BT pull stud?
It's a BT30 pull stud, which is so smart.
And then it's just got a pin for alignment.
Yep.
Is it just one pin?
Uh, I think it's two. I could go pull out a. Oh no, it's definitely two. Yeah, it has to be two.
It's
I
two
could go
pins.
pull out a palette.
Okay,
And there's a Pokeyoki pin as well.
gotcha.
Optional Pokeyoki pin.
Nice.
But man, making those palettes is so cheap, which
Yeah.
is like the biggest draw of that design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome.
Not Jacob. Jamie, was that enough to get my subtract promotion? Anyway, Ashton what?
Does he do work for Subtract?
No, we're US only.
Oh, okay.
And I almost called him Aussie. That's not right. He's a South African. He's an Afrikaner. Ashton G says, would Subtract ever do a machine shop incubator to make an ideal Subtract shop? Probably not. But what we will do is open source what I would basically call a franchise model shop. So not like make you buy into it, but we'll open source all of our processes and techniques and our tool libraries and like everything that we think a Subtract shop should have and do well. We will make that publicly available for free to anyone. And if they use that for themselves, that's good. If you use that for Subtract, that's better. But I'm not going to like do classes or something.
Would you list, if there's is equipment that you would want, would you list what to buy, what you would recommend, or they can find their own equivalents of?
What I would like to do is build a standard automation cell and basically provide you with the CAD models, all the pieces, the bill of materials, the macros, the cam templates, etc. for that. So, something like a UMC 500 with a robot or whatever makes the most sense, or gimbal automation. Or
are you getting that high volume, or is this for onesie twosie stuff?
This is future plans.
Oh, okay.
But that is what I would do. I would not say like, hey, we recommend that you buy a, Tormach 1500 or a mini mill or a VF2.
I wouldn't say that, but like inspection equipment, like
yeah, that I'm fine doing like a
not
list of
specific machines, but just be like, okay, here's all the stuff around machines. Like you figure out your machines, you figure out what part sizes, but this is standard inspection equipment. This is standard, finishing equipment. This is handy burring, if there's any handy burring, or like the Scotch-Brite wheels, or inspection equipment, whatever.
Yeah. So we're getting really close to releasing our standard tool library, which will have like basically I don't even want to say recommended tools, but our chosen tools. That tool library will come with not only the Fusion library, but it'll come with Gridfinity bins for all of the tools. It'll come with Kanban cards for all of the tools and tool tags. So basically all you have to do, if you want to just adopt our system, you go to your paper printer, you hit print out the Kanban cards. You go to your 3D printer, you print out the bins and the tool tags, and then you buy all the stuff. And it's designed to fit in the IKEA Alex drawers, which I'm not going to recommend to anybody until I test the longevity. But it's something that basically everybody can get for relatively cheap, pretty much no matter where you are in the world. So if you want to just adopt the Subtract tooling system, you can. It's built to be pretty flexible. but also a really good starting point. So that'll be ready soon. Basically, I just need to finish printing the bins and the Kanban cards.
Fair enough.
So to go back to Ashton G's question, no, but it's kind of sort of.
All right. What's the next one?
Next question, Kayla J. How are you? Is that Jacob's significant other?
I have no
Is that who
idea.
Kayla is?
I have
I
no
should probably
idea.
know this by now. Well, Harrison, I answered the last question. This one's on you.
I'm doing good. If you're just talking about how are you like today I had to go to a funeral, so that was
Oh, I'm
that was a little
sorry.
rough. It was uh it was a customer's funeral, actually.
Oh,
Um
were they a
one of
good
my
customer? Sorry, never mind.
it was one of our customers, one of their purchasing agents passed away.
Hmm.
And he was a younger guy in his 40s who it was not planned or known, and he was on vacation and just passed away. And so it was a little bit rough. I got to meet his wife for the first time, which was a little bit rough, but the silver lining in it all was her husband, before he passed, had purchased a CNC machine, and he was planning on teaching his boys how to use it. And so I
Hmm.
might offer my services to kind of help teach them, because their oldest is, I think, 16, and he has an interest in engineering and machining. And so his dad had bought that machine to kind of do projects with his boys and kind of teach them. And so she wants to hold on to the machine, and she wants to get them interested in it. And so I told her that if she has any problems or wants any help with that, that I'd I'd try to help out.
Is it like VMC or Tormach or like desktop machine?
I believe it's a legit, like a bigger machine, I believe. I don't know for sure. She didn't know what it was. She just said it showed up in a massive crate, and he had to borrow a forklift from work to get it inside. So I don't know if it's three phase, if it's single phase. She doesn't know any of that information. She just knows that after he passed, she had a lot of people asking her if she was going to sell it for the money. And she was very against it, because she wanted it for her boys. And
So you
so
didn't pester the widow about details on the CNC machine at the funeral?
I did not pester the widow about details on the CNC machine at the funeral. I offered to help, and I had a lot of respect for her, for thinking of the kids and trying to honor her husband's wishes, even though she joked a lot about when the machine showed up and she didn't know it was coming. And she's like, honey, what you doing here? So, you know, and so, she wasn't upset when he bought the machine, but she gave him a hard time about it because he kind of did it on his own and didn't tell her in advance. But now she's really wanting to get it going and train up her boys on it.
Cool. It kind of makes me wonder if it is a Tormach.
I don't know. I think it's a used machine,
No.
but I don't know what it is. I tried to ask a little bit about details, but I didn't push too hard.
Grieving widow funeral. Yeah.
Yeah.
EJ says, for a small shop, what's the best way to stop bleeding cash on jobs because of constant revisions and setup issues? And I think by revisions here, he doesn't mean part revisions from his customer. He means like revisions in the manufacturing process. And then Jacob provides context. He feels like he has constant issues with work holding and tool life and spends half of his time running back and forth, tweaking feeds and speeds, reposting tool paths, fixing setup issues, which is wasting time and costing money.
I would say focus on your core competency and grow from there. So, what parts did you have the most success with? And how can you get more parts that are like that? And then parts that are kind of at your outside of your comfort zone. If you can identify what parts are a good fit for you and what parts are a bad fit for you, and try to focus on the good parts, and then take the challenging parts as like a 10 to 20% of the total work you're putting through the machine. Because quite frankly, there's not a magic bullet to this question because every part is different. The magic bullet for this, the best way to approach this problem is to figure out what you're good at, focus on that to pay the bills, and then expand by taking on and look at a part, and if you can identify that this part is going to be problematic, it which you only get by taking parts and running into this problem. But so you kind of got to look back on a history. But the more you can try to identify problematic parts on the front end and take those strategically instead of having to take them to try to pay the bills. Because if you're always taking problematic parts, then you don't really know what your core competencies are for like what makes a good part for your company. And in the beginning, unfortunately, at least for us, our strategy was to shotgun, and that's kind of what you got to do in the beginning is figure out you got to create a wide pattern, figure out what's a good fit, what's a bad fit, and then narrow your scope, but still take things on the edge whenever you can fit them in to try to grow as a machinist.
I totally sympathize with what he's saying here. Like, I have definitely been there. Like, even with these big parts, I was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had to buy twice as many pieces as I needed because I was scrapping them. So I get it, EJ. It's not just you. Everybody goes through this.
These these medical parts that I'm doing, it's a harder material that I've never used, and I don't have any tooling for it, and I'm trying to get good tooling for it. We're scrapping parts at in the beginning, we were scrapping about every other part, so about a 50% rejection rate. And we've had to make, at this point, we've made about 200 op ones. We haven't finished out the parts. But in that process, we have gone through a ton of revisions and just testing feeds and speeds. And we can do that on a higher volume job that I understand you can't quite do on the one off. But if we were to just do that job as a one off, we probably would have scrapped 6 parts to get one good part. And that's just because it's a whole new process, a whole new material, a whole new skill set that we just don't have experience with at this point.
I would say anything you can do to get variation out of the process is good. We've said this a number of times. One of the best things you can do is have a really solid tool library in Fusion.
Yeah.
On top of that, have a really solid like toolpath library a library of toolpath templates, or just use toolpath, which I think you probably do, EJ, to take kind of some of the programming aspect out of that. Use standardized work holding, use standardized work coordinate systems, try to approach parts with similar methodologies, when you can.
The best
Always
the
aim
best
on the conservative side
yeah.
on speeds and feeds and amount of stock to leave and etc.
The best analogy for that I can think for that is if you were trying to learn how to race a car around a track, you don't start off by going full speed or you're going to be crashing all over the place. And as much as I talk about trying to push things as fast as I can, especially earlier on as I was learning, I kind of had a little bit of that Titan push it to the limit on the Tormach, which to be fair, pushing it to the limit on the Tormach on the 1100 is a lot different than doing it on a full machine center. So like me pushing it to the limit on the Tormach was like me running at like 5% rapids on all my other equipment. So but I am definitely slowing down my defaults over time to get reliability, and then I'm only speeding them up once I've know it's a production part and I need to get time out of it.
I had another thought. One of the things that I have caught myself doing before is basically I'm cheap, and so I don't buy that much tooling of whatever I need, and then I inevitably break the tool that I need, and I have to go switch to some alternative that I have in my drawer
Mm-hmm.
that's, a little less ideal. And then, I run a couple parts of that and then I break that one. Then it's like, well, I've got to redesign my whole process a third time for this tool that's even less ideal that I have laying around. And having inventory on hand of standardized tools and like having good systems to maintain that inventory and like always know what tools you have on hand or have a system that lets you make sure you always know that you have the tools on hand, if that makes sense. Like that can save a lot of headache too, because if you're every time if you're using different tools every time you're making a new part, like you're starting from the ground floor every time. But if you use the same tool over and over again, you can build out that feeds and speeds library. You can build out a familiarity with that specific tool,
Yeah.
to hopefully be more likely to get it right the first time.
Yeah. And I mean, we went through that on the lathe with this material. We got all these different sample packets of different tooling for harder materials of like different inserts. And, we burned through all of the samples of like one specific part or one specific insert, and we got it dialed in really good. And then the last edge finally wore out, and we had to switch over to another demo insert edge, and we were right back at square one. Like,
Yep.
different geometry, different grade of carbide, different rougher radius. Like, it threw everything out of whack, and all the stuff that we had just spent dialing in on the other one, it's like we're back at square one and we got to start all over again. Just because we're trying all these different inserts, trying to figure out which one makes the most sense, and it's like I don't want to start all the way back over.
Yeah.
It's like I found an insert that was like working, and I just want to buy that insert again because I'm under the gun, even though it would benefit me to try out all these other inserts.
Yeah. And if you standardize the tools that you're using, you don't have to buy as many of them to maintain an inventory.
Yeah.
Like if these are the 10 tools or the 20 tools you have to inventory, you just need to buy those 10 or 20 tools. But if you're trying to get like, let's say a tool that's the best possible tool for every part, like, the best possible tool for one part's not going to be the best possible tool for the next part. And so you end up with like 1,000 different tools that you have a big breadth of inventory, but not a very good depth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you standardize to, these tools, these will be good enough for 95% of things. And then I buy the 5% as I need them. You can carry a much larger depth in those tools. And that, again, this has been something that I've learned the hard way by trying to
Yeah.
be cheap and not buying enough tools.
Yeah. I find that if I think I need two tools, if I buy that third tool, I never need it. If I don't buy that third tool, I have to overnight it.
Yep. Last question. Jacob, did you? Nope, that was from Harrison. Never mind. That was a behind the scenes question from Harrison to Jacob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, EJ, we've all been there in the beginning. It's
And
it's
sometimes the
hard.
middle.
Yeah. And sometimes last week. um
Yeah.
and I wish there was a magic this will fix all your problems solution, but
Send the parts to subtract.
he's trying to grow his business. He wants to become a subtract supplier, not sending parts to subtract. EJ, don't listen to that. No.
EJ is a
No.
subtract supplier.
Oh, he is. Send parts to
Yeah, he
yourself,
is.
EJ. It'll solve all your problems.
Yeah, there you go. Send parts to yourself and let me take a cut. Perfect.
Oh goodness. No. It this goes out to not just to EJ, but to anyone who is legitimately struggling and hitting their head against the wall. I will try to lend an ear if anyone actually legitimately is like stuck, because I know that I have spent those nights at 2 a.m. trying to figure out if I'm making the right decision with my life and if machining is really what I need to be doing. and I understand what it's like to feel like the road is coming up short, and I'm going to be in the ditch here shortly if something doesn't change. And unfortunately, I think it's a common story with most machinists that doesn't always get talked about, but I think everyone has their story of having to battle it out through the night, trying to meet a deadline, um, and feeling like the weight of the world was on their shoulders and there was no one that could help, and that you're looking in all directions. Unfortunately, sometimes that trial by fire is just those that make it in machining are the ones that can push through and come out the other side and still have hope in their eyes. Been there more than once.
Is there is there a good way to document the lessons that you've learned so you don't have to relearn them later? Like I'm thinking with these big parts, given my past experience, I should have seen the warping coming
Mm-hmm.
with what I know,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't, consider that for this specific one. Probably, actually, I did think about it. I went, oh, they're an inch thick. They're never going to bend by a 16th of an inch. But I was
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
But if I had, like, I don't know, notes or something where I could have looked back on my past jobs or something, that might have been helpful.
I probably should have put up a little bit more of a red flag whenever you asked me about it. I tried to hint that that could be a major problem, but
You, well, you were worried about it bending in the direction of the vices, and that's what I was focused on too.
I was, but that wasn't the only thing I was, and that's what I'm saying. I should have been a little bit more clear because I had a part like that that was an inch thick that was significantly smaller that warped like crazy.
Hmm.
Whenever I was about a year ago.
So it's Harrison's fault. You heard it here, folks.
No, I should have been a little bit more clear that it wasn't just the vice to watch out for on that. Just because 1018, it depends on which state, if it's heat treated or cold rolled. The cold rolled stuff, you take that skin off and it bends like a pretzel almost every time.
Sproing.
Hmm?
I went sproing,
Yeah.
which in my head is the sound a spring makes.
Yeah. And
Which I think
yeah.
EJ's had kind of the same issues with warping.
Because you remember that part I sent you photos of that was like 3 inches thick that had that little shelf in it and how much it was going up, and they had the parallelism call out and then the thickness and
Oh
like
yeah,
it had like three different constraints and how much that thing was bending, and it was a thick part, like it was like 2 inches, 2 or 3 inches thick, and it was still warping like crazy.
stupid material movement. It does make me want to get like a heat treat oven and just
Yeah.
anneal everything before I machine it.
Yeah.
Or just stick
So
to aluminum.
aluminum can still do it. It just takes a lot bigger pieces before it becomes a problem typically.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever made anything large out of aluminum, so I guess I just don't know.
Oh yeah, it can do it, but it's usually not as noticeable.
Well, I look forward to getting back to Audacity Micro stuff this week because these Maycore parts, I think they're only like a 16th in diameter or something like that. And if those warp a measurable amount, being a 16th inch in diameter, then
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I go dig ditches at that point.
I was actually
Close
thinking
down my
about
shop.
I was thinking about warping actually at the funeral, ironically, because I didn't know anyone there, and so I felt a little awkward. And so I was fidgeting with your not for climbing carabiner and was thinking about
Yeah.
it and the issues you had with that.
Oh yeah. Speaking of warping,
So because I remember all the challenges you had when you were doing that. And so I was thinking about it as I was sitting there fidgeting with it, looking around the room, going, I know no
oh, I remember what I forgot to say during the Patreon whatchamacallit pitch. We have a Discord server, which is a great place where you can go for help. EJ and a bunch of people spend a lot of time in there. I'm unfortunately not as active in the Discord server lately, but I'll try to get back in there more. But like Jacob's in there all the time. There's a ton of the Patreons who we listed above, who are in there all the time. All paid members get access to that. And that is a great place to go for help. And the fact that it's paid, I think, is actually its biggest strength, because you don't get people who don't care in there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
everyone has shown a commitment. And so, like, there's no trolls. Everybody cares. It's a great environment.
I wouldn't know because I don't spend very much time in there. I should.
He just goes in there to yell at Jacob about invoices.
Yeah, I don't spend much time looking through what all of our Patreons are doing. I'll admit it. I'm sorry. I'm a horrible host.
Someone
It,
built a coolant coalescer. Is that the term? For the 1500. And I think I need to, like, they provided like all their files and everything. And I think I need to build one. Ooh, maybe that's what I'll make Toolpath make for me. But
it's funny
yeah.
that Dylan is more active in our Patreon than I am. Dylan, you're making me look bad.
um, I had to take all of the work holding off of my Tormox table, the vices and the Eroa stuff, and um, I have always had this issue where I stuck my tool setter behind my vice, and it was kind of like, this tool setter's fine, but it has some reliability issues, and I was always kind of grumpy about it. I removed that vice, and it's been flawless ever since. And it's like, oh no, yeah, this was just me. It needs to be on a riser or not behind a vice. I might put it on the other side of the table. That was my other lesson for the week: is my tool setter is fine. It's just it doesn't work behind a giant chunk of steel.
Yeah, I did see your indicator like
I
meh.
also I slightly bumped it. There is no damage. It didn't even break the little fusible link. It just unscrewed it a little bit.
I remember seeing that on Instagram. I think I asked you about it and you never replied back.
Oh, I thought I did. I
What's your
answered
story on
somebody.
that? We're live. What's the story on that?
Oh, so that was just on those big parts because I was pretty tight on my work envelope. And just as it was going around the perimeter with the 1/2 inch end mill, I think what happened is one of the drive dogs just barely went blink and
Oh
just
wow.
barely tapped the little ceramic pad away on the tool setter.
If it's ceramic, you should be glad it didn't fracture.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. I assume it's ceramic. It's white and it doesn't feel like plastic, I guess. So yeah, it's probably ceramic. Yeah,
Wow.
that's a valid point. I could have fractured, but it survived. I knew it was going to be close, and I checked my clearances, at least to what I thought would be the extremes of that tool path, and I thought it would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong, but it must have just been a tiny amount, because if it had been like a real hit, it would have broken off that little breakaway stem.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was the drive dogs, which I probably wouldn't have noticed as I was like jogging and around checking clearances.
How low was that, or how high is your tool setter?
I don't know, normal height.
Like, because your part was
But
1 inch thick. Like, how low did your spindle get? Like, how much? You must have like nothing for stick out.
the part was in mod vices, and it was sitting on top of a piece of acrylic that I was using as kind of a sacrificial, I guess parallel would be the term here. I probably could have put parallels on their sides and used
Hmm.
them that way, but I didn't have any parallels short enough to be vertical. So I just put a big old sheet of acrylic underneath it. Acrylic is pretty flat. And I've done it before. It worked fine. But I did actually, this was the first time I've ever had spindle nose to table issues on this machine. Uh, and because I was cutting basically within a 1/4 inch of the table, well, okay, a 1/4 inch within a 1/4 inch of my Saunders plate, so an inch above the table. But there were a couple tool paths that I started and then got halfway through and errored out because I ran out of Z travels, going too far down. So I had to like stick out the tool a little bit more and rerun them. It's just not something I'd had to deal with before because normally it's in a Vice or an Aroa system or whatever.
Fair enough.
But being right on that fixture plate was too much. Which the if I didn't emphasize this, that Saunders plate was a lifesaver on this job. It
Mm-hmm.
was so much easy in the mod vices. It was so much easier than every other way that I tried to do it.
Are the mod vices you have, are they Gen 2 or Gen 3?
Gen 2.
Gen 2.
Pretty beat up ones. I need to replace them. They have been
Do you
well
know
loved, we'll
do you
say.
know what the difference is between his Gen 2 and Gen 3?
The Gen 3s are prettier. I don't know. No, I don't know the difference. I just know mine are beat up. Like I can't change the serrated jaws on them because I have milled through the top of them and milled off the like hex head of the screws that holds the serrated jaws in place. I probably shouldn't, but I kind of treat them like soft jaws.
uh,
Which, by the way, okay, here's a teaching pro tip. So if you're ever teaching like an apprentice or you have a class, make their first part being to make soft jaws and then use those soft jaws as hard jaws for the rest of the class. Because that way, if they mess up and mill into the soft jaws, it is less likely to hurt your tool and you don't break your hard jaws or mess up your hard jaws.
yep.
So I now start off every class with making soft jaws. Though we make them out of steel, so they're not that soft.
Yeah. I did aluminum soft jaws in my class as the first project. Something quick, easy for them to program and kind of get the hang of, and then we use them for the class.
Yeah. It's a good, like, just make chips on the first day kind of project, which is always my goal, is chips on the first day.
Yeah. I think it's time, guys. AJ has subtly hinted that it's time to go. So, all right, guys. Thanks for hanging out and listening to our ramblings. And we wish everyone luck on their journeys as they grow as machinists, because we know it's tough. It still is for us too at times. And yeah, we'll catch up with you guys later. This has been Harrison with Precision Ingenuity, signing out with AJ from Subtract and Audacity Micro. Catch you guys later.
Taps and patience, our daily grind. In this machine shop, we'll always find joy and struggles all intertwined. Taps and patience, one of a kind.
Music was really loud again.